Welcome back to Voice Global. I'm your host, Pete Erickson. My next guest really needs no introduction, but I know a lot of you may be tuning in for the first time. He has founded what I like to call the Gartner of the voice tech industry. He covers the industry from an analyst standpoint. He also covers it from a news and information standpoint. He's also just deeply knowledgeable about the voice tech landscape and all that's going on. Please welcome to the stage my next guest, CEO and founder of Voicebot.ai, Mr. Bret Kinsella. Bret, welcome to Voice Global.
Thank you very much, Pete. I'm excited to be here once again, leading
Yes.
industry here that you are with your round-the-clock conference. And I'm looking forward to
Hey,
some point.
well done. Well
This,
done.
this is
Yes.
this is the past and future of the industry.
Amen. Amen. Those will be coming back. And as I've been saying throughout several of our interviews today, that there will be a live event this fall. So we're excited about that. We're working on those details right now. But, good news is, the vaccine's gone well, and it's time to, things are happening faster than I think we had anticipated. And it's good news for everybody because we can start to get back together, as many of us are already, enjoying our families and our friends, I think, for the first time in a long time.
Yes.
But we're gonna get back together, and you and I are from the same region of the country. We both live in the greater Washington, D.C. region, and that's where this conference is going to be. So, I guess we won't brag that you and I won't have to travel far.
That's right. I'll be there. I don't have to get on a plane, which is one of my goals, maybe not to be on a plane this year. We'll see if I hold to that.
It's funny. I'm looking forward to flying somewhere, to be honest. I know it's kind of a drag flying, and I just kind of hope that we don't get any unruly passengers on our flight.
Right. Yeah, of course. Okay. Well, let's get down to business, because you and I haven't talked for a while, and you talk to a lot of people in the industry.
Yep.
I obviously come across a lot of folks in the industry as well, but I want to ask you a question to start out. I know you have some questions for me. Since you're talking to so many people around Voice Global and the other initiatives you have, what are you hearing out there? What are the trends? What's standing out?
Yeah. So, thanks, Brad. I appreciate you asking me the first question. I think the biggest thing I notice is that the enterprise AI and the amount of opportunity kind of across the landscape for conversational interfaces within enterprises or multiple industries, whether it's entertainment, media, automotive, transportation, logistics. It is a vast industry. And I think, being a part of this industry for the past 6 or 7 years and watched the rise of the conversation around skills and actions and everything else. But really what's happening is enterprise level AI and conversational interfaces is here as a business. It's being recognized now by analysts, and that's reflected in kind of all the conversations that we're having, whether it's with Comcast or Cathay Pacific, McDonald's, or the NFL. There are so many really compelling use cases that are really taking hold and really identifying and keying in on the value of this industry.
Right. So that's fairly consistent with what I'm seeing. I would say enterprise is the big standout. It's almost like there are no standouts on the consumer side at the moment, but on the enterprise side,
Yep.
there are. It's pretty dispersed, but there is some concentration right now. Obviously, in the contact center, that started last year, and that was a big deal.
Sure.
And then obviously, we're also seeing a lot of things in the transcription space. In fact, Verbit just announced a new funding round yet again. They keep raising like every 3 to 6 months. They're raising another big tranche, and their latest valuation pushes them up over $1 billion.
Yep.
The second unicorn I've seen over the last 4 years, and the first one in 3 years in this space. So there's others. I mean, we're seeing drive-throughs a lot. That's
so the first one would have been what?
Contact centers.
Yeah, but no, the first unicorn.
Oh, SoundHound.
Sure.
I'm not sure they still are at that valuation.
Right.
I mean, obviously they haven't. At least I'm not aware that they've gone back out for additional funding.
Right.
But their previous round was at just over $1 billion. And so, it's one thing to get there; it's another thing to sustain it. And
right.
And very well, SoundHound may very well be past that. Maybe there are $2 billion.
Right.
I don't know. I'm not that close to it. But Verbit, being the second to come out and really coming out very quickly over about a 2.5-year period.
Yeah.
Very, very impressive. That's the blitz scaling model, and you can't do that in a lot of these markets, but that's one that has stood out. And then obviously the drive-throughs, I think, are really taking off. The
Yep.
that we're seeing a lot of news around that. We're there still more POCs. We're not seeing a lot of
Hmm.
production implementations,
Hmm.
but we are in those first two categories. Uh,
Yep.
and then there's a lot of experimentation. So I think this is really, in a lot of ways, the year of the enterprise. And maybe it's because so many enterprise players had a difficult time last year, and they started looking at how can we do things better, what technologies haven't we employed that we could use. And so things started to get a look that maybe they wouldn't have gotten otherwise, because they were dealing with all of these sort of near term issues plus long term planning. So that's been really interesting.
I agree. I think that uh, think about the trough of disillusionment. I think we're through the trough in terms of an industry, and that was really, I think, spurred on by the promise of a new store where applications could live and direct consumer interaction. It did not materialize like the mobile application space did and become a many multi-billion-dollar market. But I think we're through that trough, and what we're seeing is the long-term growth has started in our space, and this is the first year that that's really taking hold. And I one of the predictions I had, I think, in after the 2018 Voice Summit event was that 2019 would produce a new unicorn.
Mhm.
Um, and it hadn't happened, so I was a couple of years off on that one. But now I think we're starting to think the Verbit funding. I think you're right, is indicative of that, and all the conversations we're having. We're talking about global implementations with major insurance carriers, airlines, media
Right.
companies. It's really interesting. And the contact centers, we talk about in contact centers, we talk about things in terms of turns. A turn is when a call takes a next level and a turn, and call trees get us through one turn to get to a customer service person, and it can be very painful.
Agent, 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 agent.
That's right. You just say, get me an agent, get me an agent, get me an agent. Stop asking me questions. But a lot of progress is being made, and I think that is a huge opportunity, and that's where the ROI is being realized, and I think that folks are chasing after that. So we're going to see that continue to evolve. Um, what
Well,
else? What else? What
I'll
else are you
add a
seeing?
couple things to that. So one is what people should look for, and I've seen this before in other technologies. When it goes broadly into in the enterprise space, it's going to be very dispersed. So although we are seeing concentration in the contact center and some of the things that are going on there, you're going to find most of the other spaces aren't going to have their head above the hedgerow, as we might say. It's not going to be obvious that there's a lot of activity happening there because there's so many different places where a few players are doing some things. And then at some point, you're going to see all the heads are above the hedgerow, right? Because they're
Mhm.
doing that. So that's one thing. On the consumer side, I think people are less interested just in general on the skill and voice app ecosystem. It's not to say that there aren't a lot of users, because there are. Max Child from Valley likes to tell me, "Hey, you even tell me, Brett, there's over a third of U.S. adults have access to smart speakers, and that's a big market actually. If you look at almost 100 million people, so there's a lot to go on there. But I would say just like the excitement isn't necessarily there like it was. The and I think that's true both from the developer side as well as the consumer side. Although maybe the excitement is reduced more from the developer side because they haven't really seen what you said, that whole big monetization method, or monetization opportunity, the unicorn that's a consumer unicorn in the voice space. So people are looking elsewhere, and I think that's what we see. Like, for example, Steve Tingaris of Dabble Labs, like he dabbles in a lot of technologies to see which ones are sort of interesting and which ones to take forward. And he's been focused a lot on GPT-3. And I see some really interesting new use cases coming out, both for the enterprise and for consumer in the GPT-3 land. We've got GPT Neo just come out. It's like even a bigger language model. So we'll see how that plays out.
Brett,
And
for our viewers, can you further describe GPT?
yeah, basically, it's a transformer tool implemented by OpenAI, and what it does is it's just a really sophisticated language model that will take in your intent, like language models that we already know, but its back end is not predetermined by developers saying this is the scope and domain of the things that we'll talk about. It's determined by crawling the internet and a few other large data sources. Not the entire internet, but a lot of the web, I should say. And it's the largest language model anyone's ever seen, up until maybe GPT Neo. So we'll see how that looks. And it's pretty amazing. It's not only amazing at actually identifying what you're asking for, but it's actually very good at identifying novel responses to what you're asking for with a minimum of data from you. And so we think about natural language generation, this idea of a dynamic response to a query. And GPT-3, I think, is probably not going to be the end solution that gets everybody excited and takes us to that next phase of AI responding to you in a novel way every time that you ask it something. But it's probably shown us the path. And that's going to take us into other things. It's going to make these interactions that we have with social robots and virtual humans and avatars more interesting, because we'll be able to cover a broader ground of conversation, while everything else really, I think, is going to sort of shift more towards that task-based execution, which we haven't really executed fully on anyway, where we have voice assistants all around us, and they're pretty good at a few tasks, but there's a lot more things that they could be doing for us. So we've got sort of this more mundane direction, which is really what Google always promised from the beginning. Say, we'll help you get things done faster, easier, more convenient.
Sure.
And at the same time, we've got starting to see this direction of where we could get sort of that more interactive conversational experience that I suspect is a smaller percentage ultimately in terms of the interactions in the near term, but is something that I think captures people's imagination. And that's why when there's a rumor that maybe Samsung Sam will be an avatar with Bixby or Viv Labs technology behind it and be able to do all these things, that people get excited.
Yeah, no, I think you bring up some great points. I think the one thing that is interesting on the consumer side is actually use of voice in day-to-day applications. So a lot of people are starting to discover that, using your voice to send text messages is just a lot more efficient and a lot faster, or to even to write out an email. And, certainly in my own family, I watch my kids that are 9 and 10. I mean, they're voice first. They do everything. They run desktop computers now with their voice. They run the remote control. They're doing texting. It's really interesting. So I think that's going to eventually help the consumer market take off from an application standpoint. I think that I think you're right there that that the developers have sort of vacated the market for right now until the developer tools are at a level where they can start to build interesting things that they can monetize. That's I think that's still to come. It's interesting how our the hype cycle really grew around that.
Right.
And
a lot of the technology advanced because of that.
Amen. Yeah, a lot of the technology. And I think that the major players, without naming names, I think they're really working now thoughtfully about, okay, how do we build this into a developer market for developers? And I think that's the next thing that's going to come. So I think, my prediction now for 2022 is going to be those tools are going to start to be available. And that's going to, in 2022, 2023, 2024, as consumers more and more use their voice and get used to the idea of voicing. It's a lot like the text message industry as it took off. But as more people get used to using their voice, they're going to be more amenable to applications that are voice first, that can be monetized. Bret, I want to bring up another topic if
Sure.
you're okay with that. So you founded a coin in this space, and certainly Bitcoin and Ethereum and coins just in general have been in the news a lot lately for the right and wrong reasons, but they've been in the news. I've always been a fan of branded currencies. I'm going way back and followed Douglas Rushkoff and others in looking at loyalty programs and creating currency around particular brands and loyalty and affinity and all those things. And what's interesting with the coin space is, you identified and came to me a few months ago with this idea for a bot coin. And I want to introduce that and talk about it because it's something that, we're going to adopt we're adopting as an organization, already have, but we haven't really made it largely public yet that we're going to get involved. But can you share with us a little bit about, your impetus for creating Botcoin, the idea, and then let's chat a little bit about it. I've got some announcements to make around it as well.
Okay. All right, great. So the first thing I would just like to say about Botcoin is I don't think of it as like me creating it. It's more of a we created it, because there are a lot of people that were behind this, and I wouldn't have done it if it was just Voicebot alone that was working on this. So that was one thing. But if I step back, really the whole idea started with this other trend we've seen among people in the industry, the ones that you and I interact with most frequently, and that's the community, the voice community, the developers, the designers, the entrepreneurs, the business folks, the big companies even. And what I noticed happening starting about 2 years ago was the start of fragmentation, and that accelerated last year. And so, I think about like 3 years ago, we all got together in Newark, right? And so we were all together. And last year we weren't able to do that. So that wasn't able to bind us together. And there were some other types of activities that were all binding us together, whether it's all building skills or doing something else. And that just evaporated over the last, I would say 2 years, but it was really acute last year. And so I was thinking that that's one of the things that we do. And I know that's really the core of your business is community, but we are sort of a central gathering place at VoiceBot for lots of things. So I was thinking we should do something around community this year. That would be sort of a side project that I'll do just to provide more value to everybody. And that it looked actually for a fleeting moment like Clubhouse was helping with that, because everyone was getting together, not everybody, but at least the iOS people, and then later the Android people were getting together and talking. But that's not really a community platform. So that wasn't going to quite do it. And so basically, I settled on two things after talking to people: Botcoin and the Voicebot Discord. And everyone's welcome to join the Voicebot Discord, by the way. That we just launched it last week, and we can provide links for folks on that. But Botcoin came up because I was approached, and people said, "Hey, the people at Rally who have running this side chain, it's connected to Ethereum, all these things, have said, hey, we've sort of solved some of the issues that you have with crypto, and we think that influencers, community members, all these other types of folks who have audiences could really benefit from them for exactly what you're talking about, like loyalty programs, for example." And I said, okay, well, that might be interesting, but I wouldn't do it myself. I would do it maybe I would do it along the lines with some other folks in the industry. Maybe we would all do it together. And that's why I talked to you and Michael Stanislawic from VoiceLunch, and Jan Koenig from Jovo, and Amy Stapleton, and Dave Young, and a lot of other people that actually many dozens of people,
right.
Got together, and seemed to be a lot of enthusiasm for it. There were a few people who said no, they were not interested in it.
Sure.
But I had a couple observations. One was, we don't have a social fabric, like one thing that ties us all together. So that's one thing that it sort of seemed obvious to me. It's not, we don't all have, the same tattoo. We don't all have the one place that we can go to every day, like a bar.
We won't tell them about our matching tattoos, though, Brand. I mean,
that's a whole story. It involves international travel. No. So I was like, oh, well, this could really benefit. So first of all, I just want a simple way to reward people or recognize people in the industry. And a lot of other folks wanted that. And that's like the first place people use it. But then it's like, there's a lot of actually investment in this community that actually leaves the community as well. Right. And so the thought here was, hey, if you've got users or customers or something like that, maybe if you exchange bot, that can actually just be a growing ecosystem. And what I did recognize as well from the B2C side is that a lot of, let's say, the skill game producers or productivity app producers, they have different customers. Their users are not, there's not a lot of overlap. And I see that in our research data, our survey data. But they all have people who have said, hey, I like voice experiences. And so maybe there'd be a way that we could naturally bind all those people, all those users together, so that if they're using question of the day, maybe they also use some other application too, because they were just aware of it because they have Botcoin, and it's sort of this common tie among all these voice experiences. We don't have that at the assistant level because there's a bunch of assistants, as we all know. We don't even have that at the device level because people are now getting beyond smart speakers, and they're in mobile apps, and the web is rising, and hearables, and all these other areas. So what is the common thread among all those things? And so it wasn't just me, a few other people, we came to this conclusion that maybe just this currency, which is really more of an affinity token, could be a great way to do it. And it can be used sort of in a commerce type of transaction, but it's really more about sort of acknowledging that we're all in the same place together, and we're using it as a means of exchange, a means of recognition and reward.
I love it. I love it. So my experience with Botcoin thus far is I think I got in when you started it maybe 2 months. So are we 3 months
Yeah,
in?
March. Yep.
Yep. And it's been really interesting. It's part of the rally.io network. So folks want to check out rally.io. And then I think the link would be rally.io/bot. Is that right, Botcoin?
It is, but like if you want to just learn more about it, just go to voicebot.ai/bot dash
That's
club.
right. That's right. That is the catch-all. No. It's certainly
everything.
certainly, and we are going to be linking to that page as well, just because it's such a good reference. And our idea is that this is a way for us to reward our speakers,
Yes.
and we'd also like to announce that there is. We'll paste the link, but there will be a link to page here at Voice Summit. So it'll probably be voicesummit.ai/bot, but it's where you can sign up to be a bot trader with us. And the first 25 people that sign up for that are going to get a bot coin from us for being a part of that. So that's exciting for us. We will also be using Botcoin for all of the speakers here at Voice Global that are going to be receiving Botcoin from us as a token of our appreciation for participating. So it's a fun way for us to involve the community, to reward the community. And, I think one thing that's interesting, Brett, is you can cash out a Botcoin. So it's something that if you get, you can certainly cash out, but you can also just hold on to it. And, it's really not intended to be an investment, but the value of Botcoin will fluctuate. And the idea is that the more industry folks we can get into the coin and using the coin, the more valuable it becomes. So it is something that hopefully could increase in value over time, but it could go the other way as well.
Yeah, I'm not guaranteeing anybody one way or the other. What I will say is that we've already seen that it's sort of a fun means of exchange, kind of like loyalty programs where you started this. And it can be game mechanics. There's lots of different things, but because there's no transaction fees, like a lot of people don't know that, they built it on the side chain. There's no gas. There's no separate wallets. It's basically it's the Squarespace or a web app version.
Right. I think that's a really important distinction. So it's not a cryptocurrency. So it's not chewing up incredible amounts of bandwidth for every transaction. People need to understand that when you trade Bitcoin, it's like sending a tweet. It literally, it doesn't have an impact on the environment. I think that's a really important distinction. And again, I think the idea is that I really like how you position it as, something that becomes a little bit of glue in our community and bonds us together.
Yep, that's great. Well, I'll tell you right now, you said you're going to give a few away. I'll say that the first 10 people that DM me on Twitter at Bret Kinsella, their new Rally address. So just go to rally.io, sign up for an account. It takes less than a minute. It's just like signing up for like a social media site. Very simple. Said if it's new, and I'll send you a couple Botcoin. The first 10 people who set up new accounts and send me.
I will match that. So if you go to my Twitter, I'm at Pete Erickson, and if you sign up for rally.io and you DM me and it's a new account, I will make sure that you get Botcoin. I'll confer with Bret, so don't hit both of us, hit either one of us, but I will match Bret's 10. So we just start giving 20 more people access to Botcoin. And my encouragement is to just learn about what's happening in the space. It's a great platform to figure out, what's happening, because, the coin industry's here. It's not going away. It's only going to evolve. And it's a great way to learn. It's a great way to trade. And we'll also be making sure that we give our sponsors opportunity to participate, and as well as attendees to future events. We may offer special offers if you pay us in Botcoin, for example. So we're exploring all these opportunities in different ways to utilize Botcoin, but it's exciting, Bret. And I want to commend you for taking this initiative on and getting others involved and building a coalition around it. And then let's talk a little bit about that Discord. So we would love for folks to join the Voicebot Discord and keep a conversation going there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So easiest way to get there is just go to bit.ly. Everyone knows that, bit.ly//
Yep.
voicebot dash discord. There's a link there. You can get in. It's a community resource. So
Yep.
VoiceBot's obviously, I mean, we set it up, and we'll put news in there and saying this, but there's many hundreds of people in there already.
Oh,
We're
that's
having
great.
conversations. We've got different channels. You can actually use it to promote your stuff. Like a lot of people reach out to me and they're like, "Hey, could you write an article on my podcast?" But well, I don't really have a space for that. It's sort of not in
Right.
our editorial scope. But we have a channel there. You can post your latest podcast. You can post your
That's
latest
great.
blog posts and things like that. So we want people to be able to promote what they're doing, their new product launches, whatever it might be, their news. But I think more importantly, a lot of your industry colleagues are there, and
Sure.
you can DM them. And so you can get in an open conversation in one of the channels, or you can just DM them and find them there. And that's what we thought would be really interesting, because so many people come to VoiceBot to stay abreast of the news and to get information and data charts, as many would recognize. This is just another opportunity for them to stay in touch
Sure.
with each other.
Yeah, and I think Discord differs from, Slack, and we certainly have an active community on Slack for voice. But it differs in that it's truly an audio and video channel. That's really the intention there. And I think it's interesting to watch all these platforms, right? If you see
Yeah.
Slack and Discord and several others, Clubhouse certainly is interesting. But well, Bret, it's always great to catch up with you, and really appreciate you coming on and manning a few of the interviews for Voice Global as well.
Yes.
Thank you for that. And VoiceBot is just such a fantastic resource. So I encourage you, go to voicebot.ai if you need any information on this industry, want to find out what's happening, read up about our Webby Award. I didn't mean to bring that up.
Oh, that's
Sorry.
true. We did an article on that.
Thank you for that.
I don't even think I knew that happened, Pete.
Oh, well, yeah, no, it was a very exciting. I didn't mean to bring it back to me. I was just I was saying.
It was heavily promoted, but no, that is like, congratulations.
Yeah.
Voice Talks has been a tremendous resource over the last year. It's a new model, which I really like. It's not just a conference. It's not a webinar. It's more like television. For the web. And I think we can learn a lot from television, right? They've been around a long time.
Absolutely.
I think this programming, this idea of having it be educational, having it be produced in a really effective way, and just curating all that great information, because a lot of that stuff would have just gone away.
It's worked out really well. It's a category I call technology entertainment, and it's important information, but it's delivered in a way that is entertaining to watch. We got an episode coming up in next week, so we'll be sure to get that out as well. So, Bret, thanks for joining us. I'm Pete Erickson. My guest has been Bret Kinsella. He's the CEO and founder of Voicebot.ai, and go check it out. Don't forget to DM him your Rally.io ID if you want some Botcoin. You could do the same to me at Pete Erickson. I'm on Twitter. For now, thanks for joining us, and we will see you later.
Look forward to seeing you soon.